Okay, today we are starting a brand new unit. Okay, so with our new unit comes a new homework link. Okay, if you need a hard copy, see me after class. Okay, but the link is bit.ly/functionshw3. Okay, bit.ly/functionshw3. Bless you. Okay, and I will post this and link it on School Loop this afternoon as well. Okay, so today we are starting with composition of functions. So what does the word composition mean? In your English class, what is composition or compose? It is not a notebook. What does the word compose mean? Yes. Together, yeah, like to put together or to combine. So pretty much this means we're going to combine functions. Okay? So to start with, okay, on this first bit, you're not going to take any notes for a minute, okay? I'm going to have you do a little bit of an activity. Then after that, we have a couple of examples. And then that'll be it. We're not making a poster. It's a different kind of activity. Okay, so here is a bunch of words. Don't write them down, please. So put your pencils down, unless you're writing in your essential question or whatever it is that you're writing, okay? But this says, I will give you a set of 3 function machines, okay? So I printed these function machines out and I had them laminated for your groups. So there are 3 sets for each group. You're going to work together, but I made multiple sets just so that you can each see what's happening, okay? But you can work together. Your group's job is to get a specific output by putting 2 machines in a particular order so that one machine's output becomes the next machine's input. Now that's a long sentence. You're like, Miss Audette, I'm already lost. I don't know what you're doing. Okay. So, what do the words input and output mean?
Input is when you put something in. Output.
Yeah. Input is you put something in, and output is what comes out, okay? So input is what we're putting in, output is what is coming out, okay? So, you don't have to write any of this down. In a minute, your groups are going to have one of each of the machines, okay? You need all 3 of them. You need all 3 of them, okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an output, I'm going to give you an input and an output and tell you find the 2 machines that make this true, okay? So I'm going to take my input, plug it into one machine, take that number, plug it into a second machine, and try to get the output, okay? So I'm going to do an example with you up here, and then we are going to start, and I'll give you about 10 minutes to do the 3 that I'm going to give you, okay? So for the first one, my input is going to be 3, so that's what I'm putting in. And my output, what comes out, is going to be 11, okay? So I need to take 3 and plug it into one of these functions, f, g, or h. Take that answer, plug it into another function, and then get 11 as my final answer. Is that okay so far?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm starting with 3. Which function do we want to try plugging it into first? We're going to try plugging it into g of x. Do we think that's okay? Okay, so I'm going to start plugging that in. I have 2 times 3 plus 3. So what is 2 times 3? 6 plus 3 is... Okay, so now I'm going to take 9 and plug that into another machine to get 11 out. Okay. So if I plug it into here, 9 plus 1, is that 11?
No.
Nope, so that doesn't work. What about in this next one? 9 squared minus 6, is that 11? No, that's some like really big answer. And even if, let's try plugging it into the other one again. I have 2 times 9 plus 3, is that 11? No, so then is our first machine G? No, it's not. Okay, so let's try another one. You want to try H?
No, I'm just kidding.
You want to try H or F?
F for failure.
F for failure, is that what you said?
No, it's for fantastic.
Oh, F is for fantastic.
X is for
Okay, so are we going to try F or H?
F.
Okay, we'll try F. So if I plug it into F, I have 3 plus 1, which is
Oh, never mind.
4. So if I take 4 and try plugging it into H or G, now I need to get 11. Okay, let's try it in G. So I have 2 times 4 plus 3 is 8 plus 3 is 11. Does that work? Okay, so then what was my first machine? F of x, and then I plug that into G of x, okay? So once you have these machine cards, you would stack them or you would show them to me like the F card and then the G card just so I can check your answers real quick, okay? Then we don't use H on this one, okay? So what you're going to be doing is you're only going to be using 2 machines at a time. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about what you're doing yet?
No, we don't.
Okay. Okay, so now make sure your cards are open. You can work in pairs and as a group, but the cards are enough for a pair. Please listen. Okay, on this next slide, I'm going to give you 3 problems. You're going to make three sets of function machines. Okay, you're going to do it 3 different times. I'm going to put all 3 questions up at once, but once you are done with the first one, raise your hand so I can come check it. Then I will tell you to move on. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, here are all 3 of the questions. Read them carefully so you know which number is the input and which number is the output, okay? So you can get started. I'll give you about 10 minutes. Work in your groups. Number 1, we should have had H and then F. Is that true? Okay. And on number 2, we had H and then G. And on number 3, we had F and then G. You needed to be careful on that one because I was looking for a positive 5, not a negative 5, okay? Now, please paper clip the cards back together. So the sets of 3 and then the big one to hold all 3 of them, and I'll come collect them in a minute. But what you just did is exactly what's on the next slide, okay? So all of this that you just did, this is what you just completed.
Yeah, but it looks like...
I know, you just did. I just tricked you into doing 3 kind of difficult math problems, okay? So you just completed all 3 of these problems, okay? And I'm going to show you what that notation means. So you remember how on number 1, I said it was H and then F? This is how we write it. H is first, and then I plug that whole thing into F. And that's what you guys were doing, right? So, do you see how H of 4 is the little inner part right there? That whole thing is my input. So that means I plug 4 into my H function. So this would be like H of 4 equals 4 squared minus 6. Like that. And now this answer is H of 4. So that gets plugged into my F function. So now I have F of 10 equals 10 plus 1, which is 11, right? You don't have to write this part down yet, okay? So see how I got 11 as that answer? On the last slide, I actually gave you the harder part to do. I told you the input and the output, and I told you guys to find the 2 functions that worked. On this one, I gave you the input and the 2 functions. All you had to do was start plugging everything in and then get the output, okay? So, this is how we would notate it. So you guys were telling me first H, then F. That's why H is inside, because it's the inner function. It's the first function. Now, down on number 3, do you see how that's written, like, differently? It kind of is sometimes, yeah. What is that little symbol right there? That is not a multiplication. I knew you were going to say that is not addition either. It's just a little circle like an O. We use that for composition of functions, okay? So this next part that I'm going to write, put this in your notes, okay? So if I have G of F of X, okay? This does not mean the same thing as G times, F of X. Do you see the difference in those 2 notations? The difference is like a closed versus an open circle, okay? So in multiplication, it's like a dot. In composition, it's more of an O or a circle, okay? So write that into your notes. Okay. And actually, there's another part I want you to write. This, G of F of X, like this, that is the same thing as this, okay? Those are 2 notations of the same thing. And that stands for composition, okay? So if you look, my F of X is next to each other. And in here, they're the inner function, okay? So the function that's on the right is going to be the inner function, and then I will just plug that back into my outer function, okay?